Someone gave you a rock, a very common rock, and you paid more for it than you paid for your laptop. The rock is not rare. It is not precious in any geological sense. The reason it costs what it costs has nothing to do with how long the Earth took to make it. It has to do with 4 words written late one night in 1947 by a tired copywriter who almost threw them away. By the end of this, you'll know exactly how one advertising slogan convinced the world to overpay for carbon, and what's happening to that slogan right now.
Here's how fast this happened. Before the campaign, industry figures put the share of American engagement rings featuring a diamond at around 10%, and that number was falling. By the end of the 20th century, those same industry figures put it at around 80%. A rock that was an extravagance became somehow a requirement. In 1999, Advertising Age named "A Diamond is Forever" the #1 advertising slogan of the 20th century. Not Coca-Cola, not Nike, a diamond ad. What you're about to hear is not a conspiracy theory. It is a business strategy. It was documented. It is still running.
Diamonds are made of carbon, the same element as coal, the same element as the graphite in a pencil. They form under pressure, deep underground. And there is a lot of it. South Africa, Russia, Canada, Botswana, significant quantities mined across multiple continents for over a century. The supply was never the problem. In fact, De Beers was incorporated in South Africa in 1888 specifically to stop the newly discovered supply from crashing the price, before there was even a campaign to manufacture demand. So here's the thing that doesn't add up. If diamonds aren't rare, if they come out of the ground by the truckload, why does a 1-carat stone cost around $4,000? The answer is not geology. Someone controlled what came out of the ground and then convinced you that you needed it. Those are 2 different tricks, done by the same company. Diamond sales had fallen for years. The Great Depression wiped out demand. Engagement rings were going out of fashion. Someone had to rebuild the market, not sell more diamonds to people who already wanted one, but create the want itself. In 1938, De Beers hired N.W. Ayer, a Philadelphia advertising agency, to do exactly that. Their brief was not to advertise a product, it was to advertise an idea. N.W. Ayer later wrote up what it had accomplished. Their report noted there was no direct sale to be made, no brand name to be impressed on the public mind. Simply an idea, the eternal emotional value surrounding the diamond. A new form of advertising, one that sold a feeling and then bolted a product to it. The method? A weekly press service called Hollywood Personalities supplied 125 leading newspapers with descriptions of the diamonds worn by movie stars. The 1948 strategy paper named the goal plainly: to make the grocer's wife and the mechanic's sweetheart look at a celebrity and say, "I wish I had what she has." And their internal brief defined the target audience for this campaign as some 70 million people 15 years and over whose opinion we hope to influence. That is in a document from 1947, in a box somewhere in Philadelphia. The agency also sent lecturers into high schools across America to talk to young women about diamond engagement rings. Their own memo describes reaching thousands of girls in their assemblies, classes, and informal meetings. The product had not changed. The norm was being installed before the buyer existed. Now the slogan. Late one night in 1947, a copywriter named Frances Jarity scrawled a few words to finish a De Beers advertisement. She nearly forgot what she'd written by morning. She almost didn't submit it because she thought the grammar was wrong. The line was, "A diamond is forever." It has appeared in every De Beers engagement advertisement since 1948. 78 years. One line. Almost thrown away. It worked. Quickly. U.S. diamond sales rose 55% in 3 years, reversing the previous decline. N.W. Ayer documented this themselves in their 1941 report to De Beers. Whether the campaign caused all of that is disputed. At least one academic study argues demand had started rising before the campaign launched. What isn't disputed, the sales moved exactly where the campaign pointed. Then they exported the norm. The campaign spread to Japan in the 1960s. Industry figures put the share of Japanese brides wearing diamond rings at around 60% by 1981, in a country where the diamond engagement ring had been essentially unknown before.
single industry chain. Treat it as an order of magnitude, not a census. And Charity herself, the woman who wrote what Advertising Age would call the most successful marriage proposal in commercial history, never married. She lived alone. She sold the dream.
Here's what the slogan actually did. A diamond is forever did two jobs at once. It made you want one, and it told you to keep it forever, meaning you would never sell it. A diamond you would never part with is a diamond that would never flood the second-hand market and crash De Beers' carefully managed prices. The slogan was not just a sentiment, it was a price control mechanism. And it worked because you believed it was about love.
So what happens when you try to sell one today? A diamond engagement ring will typically return somewhere between 20 and 60% of what you paid for it. That's not a bad week at a casino. That's just how the asset class works. And De Beers also decided how much you should spend in the first place. They started with the suggestion that a man should spend 1 month's salary on a ring. By the 1980s, their advertising was asking, how can you make 2 months' salary last forever? The number doubled over decades of their own ads. Then a lab figured out how to make the exact same thing. Lab-grown diamonds are chemically identical to mined diamonds. GIA, the main diamond grading body, certifies them on the same 4 criteria system. A trained gemologist cannot tell them apart without equipment. In 2019, lab-grown stones accounted for about 5% of U.S. diamond jewelry sales. By 2024, they had captured more than 45% of U.S. engagement ring purchases. 5 years. The norm that took 60 years to build is being quietly dismantled. Pandora, one of the world's largest jewelry brands, dropped natural diamonds from its collections entirely and pivoted to lab-grown stones. Its sales have grown since the switch. The brand, built on the idea of precious things, decided the precious thing was no longer necessary.
Here's what's actually going on. Diamonds are not rare. They never were. De Beers was incorporated in South Africa in 1888 specifically to prevent a price-crashing glut after large new mines were discovered. The scarcity was managed from the start. The cultural norm, the idea that a diamond ring is how love gets proven, was built by an advertising agency hired to solve a sales problem. Their own brief called it making a diamond ring a psychological necessity capable of competing successfully at the retail level with utility goods and services. Written down in a strategy document in 1947. And the forever part was price control. An emotion turned into an instruction not to sell, which kept a second-hand market from forming, which let De Beers set whatever price it chose. Now, lab-grown diamonds have broken the supply lock. A 1-carat lab-grown stone averaged about $1,000 or less in 2025. A comparable natural stone averaged around $4,200. Same carbon, same grade, different story. De Beers posted an underlying EBITDA loss of $511 million in 2025. Anglo American took a $2.3 billion impairment on the company that same year, driven by lower price forecasts and the shift toward lab-grown stones, and is now trying to sell it. Their own filing names greater shifting of customer preference between natural diamonds and laboratory-grown diamonds as the driver. In writing, in a financial statement. 4 words. 78 years. The campaign convinced an entire civilization that love requires a specific type of carbon, and De Beers held that norm in place for the better part of a century. That is genuinely impressive work. Horrible for your wallet, but impressive.
If that mechanic sounds familiar, build the ritual, charge for the consumable. The printer industry worked it out too. Cheap printer, impossible ink. Same system, different box. That one's next. And if the hospital charging $40 for 1 aspirin is more your speed, that's up there too.